This is the Little Rock Team Podcast presented by Staley Electric. I'm Patrick Newton, and today we're talking with Roger Woods. Roger was one of the most important pieces of that 2015-16 Little Rock Trojans team, and I would say one of the more underrated and unique players to ever play for the Trojans. Roger is a 6'5" power forward with a really interesting blend of size and skill. By the end of his senior season, I'd argue Roger was one of the toughest, if not the toughest, individual matchup in the Sun Belt Conference. You put a big man on him, he's going to drive past him. You try to guard him with a smaller player, and he's going to bully him inside. Over the last 11 games that season, which coincided with Little Rock taking a big jump offensively, Roger averaged 13 points and shot a ridiculous 61% from the floor. Now, in this episode today, we're going to talk about his stops along the way to Little Rock, his recruiting process and his bond with head coach Steve Shields, nearly transferring after the end of his junior season, the frustration he had early in his senior year, and ultimately all of the success that he experienced down the stretch that culminated with him being named the MVP of the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Let's go.
Roger Woods, how are you?
Good, Pat. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for doing this.
Nah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about your time at Little Rock and you know all the things you did, all the exciting stuff. But let's start a little bit earlier, going back before you got to Little Rock. Are you from, were you born in Jackson, Mississippi?
Yeah, born and raised Jackson, Mississippi.
Went to Provine High School.
Provine High School. Yeah, I mean, it was the most historic school, you know, when I was coming up in my neighborhood. You know, everybody wanted to play at Provine. You know, they were winning championships. We had a guy, Justin Reed, who played at Ole Miss, ended up going to the NBA, so he was our neighborhood Kobe Bryant. Everybody wanted to be like him. Had a strict head coach, and he installed a lot of discipline. And he was able to have a lot of success. So, you know, Provine is a huge part of my career.
Were you always a basketball player?
When I was young, I played baseball, basketball, football, soccer.
That's what I was getting at was football.
Yeah.
You definitely, if people would be like, this guy's a college athlete, I think most people look at you and think you're a football player.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, they say that because I gained a little bit of weight. I got hurt my senior year in high school, and I was on crutches for like a month. And I remember my high school coach, he was like, man, don't get fat. You know, he was like, don't get fat. And I still had them same eating habits, and I gained a little bit of weight. And I went to college, and that was the first time me, you know, hearing fat jokes or whatever, so I had to adjust to that, you know.
And you go to Southeastern Louisiana out of high school. Did the injury your senior year, what was the recruiting process like for you? Did that kind of slow things down, being hurt?
Kinda. So with that situation, my high school coach, my coach Luther Riley, the first 3 years he was, you know, a real good coach. He had coaches coming in left and right, so I had, you know, a lot of interest. And my senior year, he took the head coaching job at Alcorn State. And, you know, everyone thought that the relationship we had, that I was going there. But, you know, I just wanted to, you know, get away from home and just start a new name for myself somewhere else, you know.
And that freshman season at Southeastern Louisiana, what was that like overall? How did it go for you?
It was good. I mean, I was able to play a lot as a freshman. I went in. I wasn't really the same player as far as I didn't have the same athleticism.
Because of the injury?
Yeah, because the injury, couldn't jump, couldn't run. So I had to become a thinker. And I always had a good high IQ. You know, since early on, I've been able to play multiple positions in different sports. You know, but I think during that time I was hurt. It made me really focus on using angles and the IQ side of it to have an advantage, and it kind of helped me a lot. You know?
I'm sure it did. For someone that already has, you know, certain skill and certain athleticism, even though it wasn't there because of the injury at the time, you add another level to it. It makes you a much better player.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And after a season there, 2 seasons at Mississippi Gulf Coast?
1 season.
1 season at Mississippi Gulf Coast. That's right, because you played 2 at Little Rock.
Yeah.
What was the impetus for you? What made you want to do the JUCO thing after 1 year at D1?
Well, during this time, I think players couldn't really transfer without playing right away, unless they had a waiver or something from the head coach. And they gave me one to Jackson State, and it was another. And I actually committed and was enrolled at Jackson State. But Jackson State is no disrespect to them, but they were like 3 minutes away from my house growing up, you know. And you know, I grew up going to Jackson State football games, tailgating, you know, all since a kid. But you know, like I say, I just wanted to get away, you know, get away from all those distractions and everything. And Mississippi Gulf Coast, that's one of the few JUCOs who was, you know, on me all the time, you know, even when I wouldn't even reply to a text message or whatever, you know, they were still calling and texting me. And, you know, that was a home away from home. I'm thankful for my time at Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Yeah, I don't remember all the specifics. I know you had a really good season. Obviously, that kind of creates the pathway to Little Rock. Before we get there, though, and I asked you this last night. You confirmed my memory was right. I can remember Shields talking about you. You were originally kind of interested in Middle Tennessee and Kermit, right? That was the program that was talking to you?
Yeah, I was talking to them, you know, throughout the whole year. Actually, they coach Win Case, who was the assistant at the time. He was recruiting me a little bit in high school, and then went to Southeastern. He was following me then went to Mississippi Gulf Coast. He was there every step of the way. And like all of a sudden, I just get a call from a 501 number, and it was like, hey, I'm the head coach at, you know, from Little Rock, and it was Coach Shields. And that was the first head coach during the time to, you know, personally reach out to me. He said he was in Kansas at the time. I don't know. He could have been in Little Rock. I don't know. But he was like, he going to drive down the next day and come see me. And when he came down, I played bad. Like, it wasn't even my best pickup game. I didn't know what to expect from a head coach coming to watch me play and talking to him and everything. But I just remember his my coach's name was Wendell Weathers, and his dad passed away. And he was just like, his dad was, you know, coached at Gulf Coast for about 40 years or whatever. So he was just a retired coach, go sit up at the top, don't even talk. So this is the end of the season. He haven't said a word to me. Coach Shields came in, he was like, that's a good man right there. Like, if you got a chance to play for him, like, you should really think about it. Mm-hmm. And then everything else, you know, from him flying me first class from Jackson, Mississippi to Little Rock, to picking me up from the airport, to drive me around, like, showed that he had an interest in me. So, you know, to this day, like, I talked to him on my way over here this morning.
Really?
So, yeah, I still got great love and respect for Coach Shields.
I say this not because you're sitting here. I'd say this with 100% sincerity. Like, I've never seen him more excited about a recruit than he was about you. I don't know what it was about your game. I think you kind of had a little bit of everything. You were a good rebounder, good scorer. You got to the foul line. You could handle the ball. You had a toughness to you. Like, you were a Shields guy. You know what I mean? Like, there were certain types of players that he had that you know, he loved all his players and liked all his players. But there were certain guys that if you played a certain way and had a certain mentality, he was going to really like you. I think you were like the caricature of that for him. You know, he was so excited whenever you signed with the program.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't know that. You know, he yelled at me so much. So, but yeah, that's good to know.
And your first year with the program, what was it like playing under Shields in that first season?
It was. I tell everybody, like, going to a new program, whether you're a junior or a freshman or a transfer, going into anything new is always tough, you know. So because they got to get to know you, you got to get to know them, and to have success, the faster that relationship come together, you know, the faster you can start, you know, building and working towards winning. But man, them guys before, man, you know, like you say, Shields players, they work. You know, those guys really, really work on the court, on conditioning in the weight room, and that's one thing that I had to adapt to. You know, I understand hard work and running, just don't quit. You know, but they was timed. You know, it was just structure. Everything was structured from the Shields way, I guess you can say.
Yeah, was John Barron getting after you?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty good.
I can remember. I was kind of like preparing for this. I was looking back through like some old videos on my phone. I got some videos of you like kind of like working out with John Barron in there. You know, you were a guy that I think they just saw a lot of potential in you, so they were definitely trying to. They were into your progress early on.
Yeah, the knock was on me that I was out of shape, but I just used to use it to get the defense off balance. I wasn't really out of shape, you know. But yeah, they the whole thing been, man, get in the best shape of your life. We want you in the best shape of your life, and I think I improved at my time here, especially with Shields and Coach Beard.
Yeah. No, you had a really good season.
Yeah.
12 points, 7 rebounds. Team didn't have the best season, 13 wins. Shields leaves after that year. I guess before we get to that, though, like, what was it like? You kind of been at the D1 level once. You went JUCO. What was it like being back at the D1 level a second time?
Honestly, I can say that, as far as the day-to-day preparation, I've done everything, almost the same as like, ninth grade, as far as preparing for games and everything, being on time, things of that nature. It just was, it was a little eye-opening for me because it was a higher conference per se. Like,
Sure.
Coming out my freshman year, it was the Southland. And then coming to the Sun Belt, it was just a little better media, a little better travel.
A little better teams.
Yeah, a little better teams you playing against in competition. So that was pretty much the only difference. But as far as the basketball and everything, I try to keep everything the same as far as my mindset.
Yeah. And so Shields leaves after your junior season. They bring Beard in. How closely are you watching the coaching search?
I'm there every day. Well, to be honest, when Shields told us he was leaving, I took my name tag down, packed my bags.
You were out?
Yeah, I was trying to get out of here. I probably would have left if it wasn't for the transfer rule, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
You were just that close to Shields?
Yeah, just that close to Shields, and I already had a coaching change in high school, and those things. I'm a loyal person. I like to say. Mm-hmm. So, when I get close to you, I'll do anything for you, it's one of those type of things, like a, father-son relationship, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I think that's something the fans probably don't always think about is sometimes as a head coach, sometimes an assistant coach, but like a lot of players go to programs to play for a certain person, play with a certain coach, and if that person leaves, it changes the whole situation for them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So they bring Beard in, they announce him. What's that whole introduction process like? Does he meet with you one-on-one? Is he talking to the team? Is he describing what he wants your role to be? Like, what are those early days like in a coaching transition?
I really don't. I remember he was there, and that's when I knew he was a worker. He was there. He did the press conference, and I think Ted Crass, he like sent out a text to the team, was like, "Coach, want to meet with you all at this time, and all the times were at night. Yeah. Nighttime, like 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and, he wanted to spend some time. So I was like, okay, so he really dedicated. But I can honestly say that, the conversation with Coach Beard, he spoke my language from day one, as far as, I don't have a senior season. I have a senior 6 months left. I want to win. I haven't won my 3 years in college, and out of everything I went through with Coach, I just knew, he wanted to win, Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Season starts that year, and I can only speak for myself. I was really surprised early in that year, and this is no disrespect to the people who were starting, but I was surprised that you weren't a starter early in that season. How did you feel about that, and what was that like for you?
Well, I had an injury early on. I had a foot injury that first exhibition game.
Okay.
That first exhibition game. I don't remember who we played, but I had a foot injury. Didn't know the results of it. Just knew I was hurt, wasn't 100%, and didn't really want to waste a year, So I was, at the time I was thinking about getting a medical red shirt, and then I ended up getting an MRI, talked to the doctor, and he said it wasn't anything serious. It needs some time and rest and ice or whatever. And that kind of slowed me down. And also, when you get a new coaching staff, like I said before, that trust factor is still there. I actually spent the full summer in Little Rock when Coach Beard got the job. So I was here, when everybody else was at home, just because I knew like I needed to figure it out if I wanted to be here or not, with Coach Shields not being here.
Sure.
And it's just every day. I build a relationship with Coach Beard. He's understanding me. Then they'll bring Coach Berg in.
Yeah.
They'll bring Coach Berg in, and I build a relationship. He got to understand me. They bring Coach Flanagan in, build a relationship. But then they brought Coach Adams, and who I'm very, very close with to this day. And, you know, we bumped heads a lot in the beginning, and he was in control of the minutes.
You and Adams were bumping heads?
Yeah, we bumped heads a lot, and I didn't realize he was in control of the minutes, and he made me sit down and really, really focus on everything that I needed to do for myself first, and then I was, you know, figure out how to help the team.
You know, there was a game early in that season. I think it was the East Carolina game. That's the one we play in Vegas. It was weird. We only played one game there. That was unusual. Typically you'd play at least 2 games in a place like that.
Yeah.
We flew out there, played that one game, and you only played like 6 minutes. It was a weird game. You know, we won that game and made like 15 shots the entire game. It was really low scoring. But like at that point in the season, you know, I remember being surprised that you weren't playing more. Were you? What's your mindset like at that point?
Nah, it's crazy.
Unhappy?
It's crazy you asked that. You did your homework. But yeah, I remember that game. I think after the game, you know, I'm happy that we winning. I can't really, me as a competitor, and I said that all I wanted to do was win. And I think we were undefeated at the time. My roommate was starting in front of me, so I'm his biggest cheerleader or whatever. Reese, shout out to Reese.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember that game. After the game was over, I think I like put my headphones and didn't say anything to anyone all the way back to Little Rock or whatever. And yeah, you know, during that time, like you say, you got to go through a little bit of adversity, and like a lot of coaches, great coaches say, is how do you handle that adversity or whatever. And that was the time I was going through it. I didn't know how to handle it, but I continued to work. I never stopped working.
The season kind of goes along. Things really changed with that loss at Arkansas State. We, at that point in the season, had only lost at Texas Tech. We get to Arkansas State, and just kind of a weird game. Arkansas State, you know, shoots lights out in the first half. You know, they're up, 18, 19 points in the first half. Y'all kind of make a comeback. Can't quite do it. I think you enter into the starting lineup after that game. Is that right?
Yeah. I think we needed that loss, so the coaches can see that I need to start. And then, but I remember, it all go back to me, gaining that trust or whatever. And I knew that game, once we started getting down. I remember Coach Adams, like he was yelling at me with fire. Come on, make a play, get to the rim, get fouled, get a stop, like fire in his eyes. Mm-hmm. And I knew we had something, that we could build on, me and Coach Adams. Then we had a talk. Maybe the next morning, and from then on, I was starting.
Yeah, I think the final 11 games that season I've got written down, average 13 points a game. Here's the big thing for you that I really noticed, and we'll talk more about this and maybe why, but 61% from the floor. I mean, you were getting really good looks. You were finishing at the rim, and I think that coincided with the team making a big jump offensively. That 49% from the floor, 44% from three the rest of the season. Team averaged 72 points per game. Y'all went from a team that was, obviously you were very good, whatever the record was at that point, you only lost 2 games, but very reliant on defense, to a team that the back half of that year or back third of that season, you had an offense that could almost match as good as y'all's defense was.
Yeah, our defense, it was real good. Just going back, over the years watching, like we had I think we finished with the number 2 defense in the country, scoring defense in the country. But with the way we played, I think it kind of took us it took us a little bit of time because it was, a new team, new coaching. Didn't really know exactly where they wanted you on offense because we were running motion. But as, December, January get around, most teams, they go downhill. And I think we took a, jump up that goes to the numbers and the field goal percentages. But at that point, I think, the guys on the team knew, like, at this time, Josh will get the ball. At this time, I'll get the ball. Or if I got the ball, I knew my shooters, Kimmy and G, they'll be here or over there, So, yeah, about that time, then I think me spending time on the bench, I was able to sit back and observe, how can I come in and help everyone, know.
You started to get some minutes late in that season, There was a lot of shooting around you. The team shot the ball really well in Sunbelt play. You had Josh, you had G, you had Mo. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody else in there. But you had really good shooters around you, and you were a guy that when you put shooting around you in space, you can kind of get to the rim at will. Mm-hmm. And you go back and you watch highlights of whether it's the Arkansas State game or the Louisiana Lafayette game. the Texas State game. I mean, you were someone that was just living in the pain at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that goes to just how I look at the game. I'm like I say, I think I got a high IQ, but then when it comes to the matchup within the matchup, if it's a smaller player on me, I'm posting him up. I don't even want the ball. I'm going to the block or whatever, post him up. If it's a bigger guy on me, I'm gonna run by him. And most of the times when I do get by him, it's that second, third guy that I gotta read, and that's how I was able to find the shooters. And playing with them guys, it actually helped me out a lot because you couldn't leave nobody open. Everybody on our team can make a three, and that was very important.
Yeah, no, the spacing was a big thing at the end of that season. You kind of capped at least the home regular season. You got 30 points in that game against Arkansas State. At the time, I think that was an arena record. You do it in front of the biggest crowd in program history, still the biggest crowd in program history.
The one that broke that record, he on the NBA team, right?
You're talking about Noel? Yeah. Noel, and maybe Rajon might have had a game above that too. But yeah, the people that broke that record were,
I just like to see my name up there by them. That's good.
Do you think back to that game often? Like, that was a fun game. That was an 89-86 game, like probably the best offensive game on both sides played all season that I watched of y'all's games that year. Yeah,
that was a good game. I remember it was sold out in the Jack Stevens Arena that night. It was senior night. I just like I say, I go in the air game. I don't go in saying I'm gonna score 30 or I'm gonna get 20 rebounds. I honestly just go in the first 4 or 5 minutes, get a feel for the game, and go from there. And I just saw that the way that was guarding me, they had big guys on me, so I was able to go by them, get in the paint, get my teammates involved early. They stopped help. They started closing out on them, and that left me a lane to get to the rim. And I was just able to have a good night that night.
Yeah, no, you had a really good night that night. 30 points. Both teams shot that was, again, just kind of going back to how well both teams played offensively. Both teams shot 58% in that game. Big difference was y'all shot 48% from three. Shot it well from three. Arkansas State, they were the only team that you guys played that season that shot better than 50% from against you guys in 2 games. What made them, for y'all, such a tough team to defend?
I just think, playing in those type of games, like, it's not really a lot of, television exposure to those type of rivalries or whatever, but, those teams and players and fans, they get amped up, Arkansas State, Little Rock thing. I don't know the overall record on that, but I know, what makes it a rival is if they beat you. And they beat us the year before, the game before. So they came in with a lot of energy and intensity, to try to, and then we were winning, so they didn't have nothing to lose. We was trying to protect what we had, so I think that kind of made it play into becoming one of those good games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We get the Sun Belt tournament. You got the win over Louisiana Lafayette in the semifinals. I think of that as the Jalen Jackson game. That's the game where he comes in off the bench and goes berserk. And then you have the win over ULM, where you have 19 points. You got 15 of those in the second half, and that's a game that y'all end up winning that game pretty comfortably. You outscored them 42-17 after halftime, but we're down by 5 points at halftime. Mm-hmm. ULM's another team. Like, what made them such a challenge for you guys that year?
Well, for me, I struggled against you. I played against them my freshman year at Southeastern. I think the 2 years before my junior year at Little Rock, and then the 2 years I think I only beat them once, and that was in the championship game. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, they were just they ran the same type of motion, but they were sprinting to their spots. They were sprinting, looking to score. And with, those guys sprinting, they 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". And then you look at, like, Majuk Ding now, who was basically my matchup. He's playing in the Olympics guarding LeBron last year, that, just shows, how good he is or whatever. But, no, I just think, that team, they were just a well-coached team. And with me, like, I'm not playing now, so I struggled with length in my career. But playing against them, by the time, like I say, I'm a high IQ player. I watch film a lot. By the time the championship came, it was a win or go home type deal, and I figure out ways I can beat them by my passing and that type stuff.
Yeah, you're named most outstanding player, most valuable player, whatever it was, in the Sun Belt tournament. How did that? Not to be like too sentimental about it, but like, how did that feel after the way the season started for you?
I just felt I was honestly due for it. Like, just and I always, even when I wasn't playing, I always had confidence in myself, high confidence in myself, probably too much sometimes. But, and then I'm not the type of person to look to the left, look to the right. I really just focus on, my journey and what I have to do to make myself better. So, to get the MVP. And honestly, to make a all-conference team averaging 10 points a game, like that right there showed like my impact, on how good of a player I was.
Yeah, y'all had 3 on the all-conference team that year yourself, Josh, and G. And like you said, and part of that, y'all were not like a real high-scoring team for most of that year. By the end of the year, you kind of were, but nobody had a real, kind of scoring average that blew you away just because it was not a team that was scoring a bunch of points or playing with a lot of tempo early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
At Staley Electric, we don't mind getting our hands dirty. That's just who we are. What started in R.E. Staley's garage in 1951 has grown to a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week residential, commercial, and industrial electrical company. From changing out a ceiling fan in your home to building a school in your community, Staley Electric will deliver the electrical solutions you expect and deserve. Visit our website at StaleyElectric.com.
You get the Purdue matchup. You said just a minute ago, you're a guy that sometimes struggled against length. Purdue's a massive team. Are you thinking about that whenever you see the matchup?
Nah, at that point, I knew I can. That's one thing. I knew I could guard bigger guys. Like, they wasn't going to be stronger than me and push me out the way or anything like that. And I also knew bigger guys couldn't guard me. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like, I was thinking about, okay, do they take charges? If they don't take charges, I'm running past them. And that was my main thing. But to say that they did have an NBA player on their roster, 2 of them to be exact. Well, no, 3 to be exact. But, that it was going into it. We didn't know what to expect, But I think Coach Beard set the tone in, like, from the beginning. We going in to win. We're not coming to party. We're not coming to, celebrate. We're not satisfied with just winning the championship, being here. We want to come win games in March,
Yeah, I can remember he told me before the tournament started, he didn't want you guys to do, like, any media at all. He was like, anybody calls for interviews, like, just tell them no. He's like, nobody's doing any interviews. He's like, I want these dudes locked in. In fact, he told me he didn't want to do any interviews. And then, God, what was the guy's name? Jim Rome. You remember Jim Rome?
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember he was like, it was, the first, you get, like, whenever you make the tournament, you get 1 million media requests. I mean, like, literally 100 within, by the end of the night, people wanting to have you on their show or whatever. And then he got one from Jim Rome, and I asked him, I was like, do you want to do? I was like, I know you said you don't want to do any of these. I was like, but you interested in Jim Rome? He's like, yeah, I'll do Jim Rome. He did that. He did that one. He did Scott Van Pelt. He did some of the big ones. So the Purdue win, do you remember much about, like, the game plan going into that game?
Yeah, pack the paint.
Pack the paint?
Pack the paint. I mean, they had, like 3 7-footers that played a lot. And they were, really, big dominant. So they that was their offense, to get the ball inside. So that was the game plan, just pack the paint, and on offense, space the floor. Space the floor. So.
Yeah. And obviously for the majority of that game, things aren't going well. It really wasn't until the last 5 minutes that things turned around. What's the mood like at halftime of that game?
At halftime, it was kind of, I try to stay even keel, like, throughout. If we up 10 or down 10, I don't try to, show any type of emotion or anything. But when we played in the Monroe championship game, Coach, he broke his hand.
That's right. Yeah. Did he hit, like, the whiteboard? Or
yeah,
something?
He hit the whiteboard and broke his hand. But I kind of saw like it was kind of the same type of thing that they wanted to, give us some energy or whatever to go out there and believe in ourselves, basically. And, we just, came back out there ready to play. Like, man, we don't got nothing to lose. But I do remember one thing going into it. Coach, he was saying, like, if we hang around, we keep the game close, Little Rock, us being a small school compared to Purdue, we only had about 300, if that, 30 fans there. Mm-hmm. And Purdue probably had about, I don't know, more than us.
Significantly more, yeah.
Significantly more. And the rest of the fans are mutual. But if we hang around, keep it close, like the rest of the fans, they're going to start cheering for us. So we're going to have more fans. Exactly. And, we go out there after halftime and get it closer and closer and closer. And next thing you know, it's rocking. Everybody cheering for us. So
you're getting
that was a good thing.
You're getting the people who are there, and then you're getting the people who are coming in for the next game. You know
exactly.
what I mean? Because you're getting a double overtime. More and more people are spilling in because the game's supposed to have started.
Yeah.
I think, was it Gonzaga that played after us? I can't remember. I know they were part of that region.
Yeah, I don't remember who played after us.
Yeah, but yeah, that arena got more and more packed. It got louder and louder. And as you said, everybody was rooting for Little Rock at the end of that game.
Exactly.
The last, 5 minutes regulation and the 2 overtime periods of that game. Obviously, Josh hit some big shots. Kimmy hit a big shot. Liz hit the one from the corner.
Yeah. That bounced. It hit every part of the rim and went in.
Yeah, it hit the back of the rim, drops down. Yeah. Like, what other memories do you have of that? Like, whether it's in the huddle or what the coaches are saying to you. What's the message in that run that you guys are going on?
We not done. It was the same the whole season. Let's finish the job. Don't celebrate till zeros hit the clock. Josh was celebrating, pointing at Coach Fisher in the stands or whatever, but he was just saying, "Calm down. It's not over." But you brought up those guys made out those shot threes or whatever, and I remember being in the timeout, and coach, they were sagging off me a little bit or whatever, and coach was like, "Man, he grabbed my arm, he was like, man, if they sag off you, let one go or whatever." Yeah, don't be afraid to let one go. And I remember coming down with like 24 seconds left on for 24 seconds on the clock. It's pretty early, and Josh passed it to me. I let it go, felt good, thought I was gonna make it. Hit the back of the rim or whatever. And going back and watching the video, the announcers, they was like, "What is he doing? This and that." I'm like, "Come in the huddle," or whatever, you would know. But that was a good run though. Coach's message was just, we're not done. One possession at a time. So that was, great experience. Man.
It's funny you bring up that shot. I had the same reaction. I went back and watched the replay a couple nights ago. I just watched the last 5 minutes regulation, 2 overtime periods. I had forgotten about that shot, but yeah, the announcers killed you whenever you took that shot.
Yeah.
They were like Beard staring a hole through him right now. And it was one of those. I think Little Rock. I think y'all had like a 5-point lead. I think you took the 3. And then they got a quick bucket. It was like they got the offensive rebound pushed ahead and got a quick bucket. Yeah. And it was just maybe I think maybe there was timeout after that. But
one of those shots, if I make it, I'm a hero. If not, it's a terrible shot. So,
but it's also one of those things that it and as someone who has done a little bit, not at that level, but like a little bit of broadcasting, commenting, you don't really know what the coaches are saying to the players. Like what you think is a good shot or a bad shot, or what you think is intentional or not intentional. Oftentimes you have no idea. You don't know what the coaches is telling the player. You don't know what they're looking for. That's a great example of you were being coached to look for that shot.
Yeah. Maybe not that early, but yeah, he definitely told me to shoot one. So.
And then y'all take on Iowa State in that next game. Or actually, before we get to that, kind of that period, right after that win. I can just remember getting back to the locker room after that game, and it's just like a madhouse back there. There's like a million media members. I think, were you one of the two? Did you come out for post-game media as well?
Yeah, I think Liz went to one game, but I did. Yeah, I did get out to one. Yeah.
But I've never experienced anything else like that before.
It's funny you say that because I did go. Yeah, I actually did after the Purdue game. I actually did go out to do the media, and I'm sitting up there, and they're like, "Hey Josh, hey Josh, hey Josh, hey Josh," and I'm like, "Man, why am I here?" But it was a good experience, and Josh actually gave me some credit, on national TV or whatever, so it was a good experience.
Yeah, no, I've seen that before too, where when players kind of getting all the questions, it gets a little weird up there. You're a good sport about it though, and y'all weren't able to pull off the win against Iowa State in the next one, but you had a really good game. I think you double had 19 and 10 against Iowa State. Ended your college career, even though it was a loss, individually on a really good note for you.
I just think they were a good team. But I can't say if we play them 10 times, I don't know how many games they'll win, and I don't know how many that we'll win. It's just, we didn't have enough. We had 2 weeks to prepare for Purdue going into that game. So we were amped up, ready to play someone else, tired of bumping into each other in practice, that type thing. But with, Iowa State, it was just quick turnaround. Can't even go over their plays, they sets. Then they got 6 NBA players out there, so they're good players. There's not much we can take away from them. Just got to find, little ways to try to stop them or whatever. But I think we did, we hung around the best way we could, and, they started hitting them threes and spacing the floor out. And the rest was history.
Yeah, no, they were a really good team, really good offensive team. I want to say they were like maybe top 3 in the country, like offensive efficiency, like Ken Palm that year. They were no joke on that end of the court. I think I think I was really worried about the Purdue size kind of creating issues for us, and Iowa State was probably just a little bit more well-rounded offensively.
Yeah.
That was Niang. Was he on that team
George
as well?
Niang.
Yeah, George Niang.
Monte Morris, Matt Thomas, all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, just in hindsight, a pretty incredible collection of individual talent on that team.
Yes, sir. No, I agree.
Your season wraps up for you. Am I right that your first overseas destination was Switzerland? Is that where you were playing?
Yes, sir. Switzerland. It was a good experience over there in Switzerland. Probably where I had the most fun or whatever, but I can attest to say that foot injury I was thinking about redshirting my college year, I think that may have affected me a little bit in my rookie year overseas, because I had a stress fracture, ended up with a stress fracture in my foot. Was over there for like a month and a half in a boot, couldn't really do nothing but just wait and heal. And yeah, I had a good experience or whatever. 5 seasons, 4 teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many different countries?
Switzerland, Iceland, Spain, and New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got some good spots in there.
Yeah, pretty good spot.
What was it like after playing for Beard being on his staff?
That was just a overall great experience for me personally. Like I was able to grow as a person. Before, being on his staff and having to communicate the way that, to his standard, attention to detail, everything. I'm thankful we was able to, make it back to the NCAA tournament. I think we made it to the second round in the NCAA tournament, played it in Indiana. That was a good experience. It was during the COVID year, so it was a little different. They had us in a bubble at the hotels or whatever, but still a great experience when you get a chance to make it to the tournament.
Yeah. We're going to finish up here with kind of some lightning round questions for you.
Okay.
Who was the best player you played against in the Sun Belt?
The best player in the Sun Belt, I'm going to have to go with Sean Long because he was so talented, and I'm going to go with Anthony Livingston just because he was just so physical and a good from Arkansas State.
Yeah, Livingston. And then was he was he a part of the tech team when you were on the staff there?
Yeah, when I was on staff, he was actually my roommate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the game I had, Coach Beard was talking one day. He was like, yeah, Ant, he had a good game against you. I was like, Coach, I had 30. No, but Ant had like a 20-point, 20 rebound game that night as well. So, yeah, good players. He
was tough, man. Arkansas State always had a guy or two that was just putting up crazy numbers. Like those Brady rosters at Arkansas State, like they, as far as like looking the part, they always had guys that they were the fiercest looking team in the Sun Belt. Yeah. Big, strong, physical teams.
Absolutely.
Who was the best team that you played against in your time in the Sun Belt?
The best team, I'm gonna have to go Louisiana Monroe, just because the way they played, they were disciplined, and they beat me more times than I beat them.
Me and John Barron have talked about this before, and I don't mean this like in a negative way toward, ULM at all, but that's a program that hasn't had a ton of success the last 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate, it's a bummer that the year that they were real, like that's a team that was good enough to win the Sun Belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just happened to come along the same year that this Little Rock team is probably one of the best teams in Sun Belt history. For them, that has to be really, really frustrating.
Yeah, they make that tip in when they played us.
Should have beat us here, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? The seedings would have been different or anything,
Yeah, no, great point. I mean, you could argue. So they were up at halftime here. Should have won the game here. Mm-hmm. Like you said, they missed the tip in. They lead at halftime, win in Monroe. Mm-hmm. They're up at halftime. Y'all ended up having the crazy second half coming back in the Sun Belt Championship. But like you could argue that they were the better team and like of 5 of 6 halves of basketball that y'all played them that year.
Yeah, I probably played my worst basketball against them. So
They were a tough team.
Yeah.
They really were. A lot of individual talent. What was your favorite Sun Belt venue to play in?
My favorite Sun Belt venue. I like those Georgia schools. I like Georgia State and Georgia Southern. For some reason, the atmosphere is good. You know, Georgia State, the fans gonna be talking to you nonstop. Georgia Southern, they gonna be piled in the little gym, all on top of each other. So yeah, but those Georgia schools, I had fun against them.
Did you like the smaller gyms like Georgia Southern?
Yeah. In this conference, well, not this conference, but the mid-major basketball, like those arenas where you can get the best out of your facilities or whatever, I think is very important.
I agree. I can remember Beard saying he really liked the Georgia Southern facility, even though it's an older facility. A lot of people, if you just ask like the random fans with the best venues in the league, they'd probably say us, UTA, like maybe Troy. Troy had that newer facility.
Troy was nice. Yeah.
But I think a lot of the coaches and I think a lot of the players like those smaller facilities that were kind of packed in because the atmosphere was legitimately really good in there.
I agree.
You didn't have to have 6,000 people to have a real atmosphere.
Yeah, no doubt.
Here's a question I've kind of wondered. Like Georgia State won the league the year before Little Rock won the league, right? Am I remembering that right?
Yes, sir.
2015.
Yeah.
Do you think this Little Rock team would have beaten that Georgia State team?
The 2016 beat the Georgia State team.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we definitely would have beat them. They were talented. They had good guard play. But it was just, when we played them my junior year, it's just on offense. They played zone, so we'll get stacked. Coach Shields was more get the ball inside, and then on. Flip it around to the next year. We had freedom to move and cut in different places on our own. So yeah, they would have had to come out that zone.
Yeah, they had that. It was like a 1-3-1 or a 2-1-2 or something. They would play that kind of a matchup zone.
Both of them, but
yeah, but no, it was tough. They gave teams trouble, and I actually think the team the year before that would have been before you were in the league, but I think that was their better team. That was with Harrow. Hunter. They had a guy named Manny Atkins who'd played at Virginia Tech. They had another big who transferred in from Southern Cal.
I heard about that team. They were pretty good.
That team was really good. They lost in the Sun Belt Championship, I believe. But, yeah, that team was really good. You had a couple teammates leave after your first year. You had James White. You had James Reed. Those guys transfer out. Who do you think from that previous year could have been the guy that would have helped the 2016 team the most?
Man, all those guys were special. They would have helped in some kind of way. I mean, you got James White, who's, probably one of the most talented people I've ever played with or whatever, And then one thing about Coach, he's good at finding, Coach Beard, he's good at finding what you're not good at or what you need to work on it and finding a way that that you can get better at it. Like if, let's say I don't like to be yelled at. He's not going to yell at you, but he's going to demand it from you some other kind of way. Mm-hmm. And that's what people don't, realize by looking at him out. He's so, hardworking. But that's one thing I understand just from, playing for him and working for him. But, yeah, you got James Reed, who would have brought his shooting. James White, would have been a presence on the defense. Then you got JT with his leadership. Like, he would have been great with us. Like, all those guys would have been good. Yeah,
kind of going back to what you're saying about Beard, that's something that I've told people before, too, is I think there's this assumption that he's just this, like, kind of 110 miles an hour all the time. And he is intense, don't get me wrong, but I think he also is really good about catering his approach, especially as a communicator. However he's kind of dealing with you, he doesn't talk to you the same way he talked to Josh or to Kimmy or to Jermaine Rutley, for example.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So. Some other teammates you had on the 2016 team, just, I'm going to say their name. You tell me kind of the first thing that comes to mind. Jermaine Rutley.
The glue.
Glue?
Yeah, he was the glue for our team. Yeah, kind of kept everybody together. Yeah.
Kimmy Osei.
Kimmy, man, I'm going to say this on camera. If Kimmy played like he played when the coaches wasn't around, we would have went undefeated. Kimmy was a killer. Like, he one of the only people in the world that I've ever, struggled to beat one-on-one.
Really?
Yeah.
Kimmy had two of the biggest plays in that Purdue game. He hit the three. He had the defensive stop at the end of the first overtime. I mean, y'all probably don't win that Purdue game without Kimmy.
Yeah, no doubt. Kimmy, great player. Canadian national team. Yeah. Yeah, great player.
Yeah, Stetson Billings.
Stetson Billings, consistent. Everything he did, like he went games without playing, but he still show up the loudest in the locker room or whatever. That time I was on the bench, I was going through it, but you know, Stet he didn't show it, you know. So he was most consistent. I respect Stet.
Reese Hill.
Reese was good. Reese was solid, man. Reese. I don't got one word for Reese, but man, Reese one of my best friends in the world. You know, good basketball player. You know, similar to me, can do everything. You know, on the court that you ask of him. I love Reese. Much love for Reese.
Yeah, Liz Shoshi.
But Liz Shoshi, I told Liz we needed him on this visit. We needed him. Big guy that, you know, not really, he don't look like a presence, but you go in there, try to lay it up, he gonna block it 1 or 2 times or whatever. Worked on his game, you know, start, you know, developing the 3, the turnaround jumpers, and it shows that, you know, that's why he's still playing now, making money.
If someone just, you know, they just were to stop you on the street and ask you what made this 2015-16 team so special, what would your answer be?
I'll say the attention to detail on defense. Like, we worked every day from the first workout until the first practice on some type of defense, and that made it. And they made it a statement that we were going to defend. Like, we were going to defend and we were going to work on defense. So instead of coach, you know, making us go run heels or whatever for an hour, we'll do a defensive workout for an hour, and I think that was more convenient for the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raj, I appreciate it, man.
Nah, no problem. Appreciate you, Pat. We got to do it again.
Definitely. Good?
Excellent, guys.
All right.
Y'all sounded great.
I see you, Pat. Okay.